President Trump says he's saddened to hear about the passing of the civil rights hero, John Lewis, over the weekend. On Saturday, the president ordered flags to be lowered to half staff at the White House, public grounds, and military posts. Ben Tracy is following the latest on this from the White House. Ben, leading Democrats, including House Majority Whip Congressman Jim Clyburn, are calling on the Senate and President Trump to skip the condolences and instead pass last year's Voting Rights Act in honor of Congressman Lewis. So, are you hearing that there will be any traction on this at all from the White House?
The short answer is no. And just so people know what we're talking about, this is legislation that the Democratic Congress passed in 2019. It would restore key provisions of the 1965 Voting Rights Act that the Supreme Court struck down back in 2013. So this has been a big priority of Democrats on Capitol Hill, but obviously got no traction in the Republican-controlled Senate. But I would not expect to see the White House leading on this particular issue. You know, when it comes to this upcoming election and the campaign, President Trump has been pretty vocal about his support for voting access restrictions, whether it's supporting voter ID laws in certain states or railing against mail-in ballots, saying that they're going to lead to widespread fraud and that that's going to make the election rigged. So this is not likely to be something that the White House would take up.
What Congress is supposed to be taking up, we were just talking to Nancy Cordes about this, is another relief bill when it comes to the coronavirus. And this is, of course, all happening as the HEROES Act, which the House already passed, has been just sort of sitting there. The Senate has not picked up the HEROES Act at all. What do we know about what the White House wants to see in the next relief bill?
So we can say the one thing that both Republicans and Democrats agree on is that there needs to be another relief bill, a phase 4. So no one is saying that we don't need this at this point. But when you get into the particulars, that's where this gets sticky. For the White House, the number that is being thrown out is about a $1 trillion bill. You're hearing from Democrats that that doesn't seem like enough to them. There is an acknowledgement that there's likely going to be some aid to states and local governments, perhaps schools, probably some funding for testing. But those issues all have to be worked out. And then the final thing would be that Republicans very much want liability protections for businesses. So if somebody goes into a newly reopened restaurant and gets the coronavirus there, that they can't just turn around and sue the restaurant because of that.
Ben, let me ask you about the president's interview this weekend with Fox News and Chris Wallace. He spoke about accountability and his administration's handling of the coronavirus pandemic. I want to play a little bit of that.
I take responsibility always for everything because it's ultimately my job, too. I have to get everybody in line. Some governors have done well. Some governors have done poorly. They're supposed to have supplies. They didn't have. I supplied everybody. Now we have somewhat of a surge in certain areas, and other areas we're doing great. But we have a surge in certain areas. But you don't hear people complaining about ventilators. We've got all the ventilators we can use. We're supplying them to other countries.
The president, as you know, Ben, reiterated a number of lies that Chris Wallace was able to fact check in real time. The president at one point also saying that the United States is the envy of the world. Meanwhile, this morning we learned that Americans are forbidden now to travel to a number of countries, including the Bahamas. And this comes, of course, as a number of reports indicate hospitals across the country are being strained and in need of COVID-19 supplies. So what do we know about the national supply chain and how the Trump administration is helping those states that are in desperate need?
Well, the very premise of what the president was saying there is kind of curious. Him saying that he takes responsibility ultimately all the time is just factually not true. Many times during the coronavirus pandemic, the president has openly blamed governors or other politicians for what he views as failures in their response. He's been asked many times by reporters here at the White House, do you ultimately take responsibility for this? And he says no. When it comes to supplies, one of the things that the president will often talk about is the supply of ventilators. And there has been progress made in that area in terms of getting companies to manufacture these across the United States to build up the strategic national stockpile. But there are real concerns in states across the country about access to PPE, to masks, and whether there's enough manufacturing worldwide in the supply chain to provide these sorts of things. And keep in mind, part of the idea of flattening the curve, the reason that everyone went into lockdown in the beginning, even if they didn't have big problems in their states, was to buy us some time to do these things, to replenish the national stockpile, to get a national testing plan or some sort of testing plan in order. Those things really didn't happen, and we never got out of that first wave. We're still in that, and now we're dealing with these shortages. And on testing, the problem is really acute because now you have these labs who are just overwhelmed with the number of tests they're trying to run because of these spikes in these populous states. And they're saying now that it's taking 7 or more days to get a result back. If you wait more than 48 hours, the test really is meaningless, because if you test positive on a Monday, but you don't get the result back until the following Monday, you have many, many times within that you're either spreading the virus or you could have contracted it. So those are real issues, and that time that we should have bought was really not used.
Before we let you go, Ben, I want to ask you about the protests in Portland, Oregon. And, local officials there say the president is playing politics by sending in federal agents. What are we hearing from the administration about this decision?
Well, they're not real defensive of it. They're kind of embracing it. This is part of the president's push for what he calls law and order. He has been tweeting about the protesters there, calling them anarchists and agitators. So for the White House, they actually think this is kind of a good look for them, because it dovetails with what the president has been talking about publicly, saying that, if you let the Democrats run this country, and by that he means Joe Biden, you're going to have this lawlessness in all of these cities, and he's here to protect you. That's kind of one of his main campaign themes now. So they feel that this is very much in line with the whole law and order campaign theme that the president has talked about, not only at events here at the White House, but the few times that he's been able to get out on the campaign trail. This is a big, big talking point for him.
And we are going to talk some more about that, Ben. Thank you very much.
Thanks.